Never could I have imagined that our paths would cross again, leading me to uncover a shocking truth. My name is Ashley, and I'm 35 years old. For the past decade, I dedicated myself to being a full-time wife, supporting my husband Sam with unwavering dedication. Though we never had children, we always believed our love was more than sufficient. A fulfilling life didn't hinge solely on parenthood. But then, Sam changed. Looking back, maybe it was his true nature finally surfacing. You see, my parents divorced when I was young, and I was raised by my father. During my teens, he confided in me the reason for their split: different personalities. At the time, it seemed trivial to end a marriage over such differences. But as I grew older, I painfully realized how crucial compatibility is. This reality hit harder when my father tragically died in a car accident last year. My father, a craftsman at heart, ran a successful construction business until his last days. Even at 70, he was revered for his skills, especially in building churches without nails, a technique admired by his clients and community alike. He would always cook for me after work with his dexterous hands, nurturing me with love and care. He often said, "What's important is not what you get in return from others, but how much joy you can give to them." I strive to live by his words, devoting myself to Sam. However, after my father's sudden death, Sam's demeanor changed drastically, revealing a side of him I had never seen before. Our conversations increasingly revolved around my father's inheritance. "With your dad's money, we can build our dream home," Sam would say, eyes gleaming with a newfound ambition. Yet I had never intended to use that money for anything other than our retirement savings. My father had worked tirelessly to leave us a secure future, not for us to squander it on immediate desires. I saw the way Sam looked at the inheritance with an almost desperate hunger, and found myself downplaying its value. "We can't afford to buy a house with that," I lied, hoping to preserve what my father had intended. Sam's reaction was unexpected. He seemed devastated, as if his world was crumbling. It was then I realized how much money could alter a person. I began to doubt if Sam had stayed with me solely for my father's inheritance. However, about 6 months later, on a weekend while I was doing chores and Sam was watching TV, he spoke up with an unusual seriousness. "Oh, I have something to tell you," he said, and for the first time since he proposed, his tone was grave. A chill ran down my spine as I sat across from him, watching a tear roll down his cheek. "What is it?" I asked, my voice catching. "I realize I've made you feel like I'm only interested in your dad's money," Sam began. "We don't have children, so we should be enjoying our time together, but I haven't put in the effort. Thank you for always being there, even though I leave all the housework to you and we rarely go out on my days off." His words stirred a mix of emotions in me, joy at his acknowledgement and regret for ever doubting him. Tears of both joy and remorse streamed down my face as Sam gently hugged me, his eyes reflecting the same warmth that drew me to him in the beginning. In that moment, I felt deeply grateful that I had married him. From then on, Sam changed his ways. Despite his fatigue after work, he started helping me with chores regularly. On his days off, he even experimented with cooking dishes he had never tried before. He took my occasional strictness in stride, and each time he overcame a new challenge, my heart swelled with pride. We began living each day as if we were newlyweds again. But then, 6 months later, things took an unexpected turn when a letter arrived in our mailbox. "Here, this letter was in the mailbox today. It's for you, Sam," I said, handing him the envelope. Carefully opening it with a pair of scissors, Sam exclaimed, "Wow, it's been 20 years since I graduated from high school. I've been invited several times, but I never went." Inside was an invitation to a reunion from his high school friends. I knew Sam had been invited to these reunions numerous times since we married, but he always declined out of consideration for me, knowing I had no ties to his classmates. This time, however, I encouraged him earnestly. "You should definitely go this time. Don't worry about me. Go and enjoy yourself with your old friends," I insisted. After some hesitation, Sam finally agreed to attend the reunion, which was scheduled for a month later. He began preparing for it, a rare occasion for him since he seldom socialized outside our relationship. His wardrobe lacked stylish clothes, and his hairstyle was usually unkempt. He explained that he felt no pressure to dress up around me because he could be completely himself. I've never been particularly fashion-savvy, believing that inner qualities matter more than appearances. However, with the reunion approaching, our outings together turned into regular visits to men's clothing stores. I realized Sam's sudden interest in fashion was spurred by the upcoming event. Since the invitation arrived, Sam started coming home late from work. Normally punctual, he would arrive by 7 p.m., but it became common for him to return past 9 p.m., citing overtime. I trusted his explanation, though I hadn't seen our financial statements recently. Sam managed them, and felt uneasy about questioning him. 3 days before the reunion, with only 2 weeks left, Sam came home and asked me to sit with him in the living room. "Michelle, my sister," he began. "She just broke up with her boyfriend and has been staying with a friend. But the friend's husband is returning next month, and she'll have nowhere to stay. I need to help my sister out." I understood Sam's concern for his sister very well. I have a younger brother who currently works overseas, and even after my marriage, I often worry about him and keep in touch. He's reliable, much like our father was, but sometimes too trusting and easily taken advantage of. Protecting him feels like my duty. So when Sam asked for help with his sister, I empathized deeply. But since our wedding, I hadn't met or spoken to her. I hesitated to use my father's inheritance for someone I barely knew, so I kept quiet about it. "Didn't your father love helping people? Why won't you help my sister?" Sam pleaded, confirming my suspicions that he wanted to use the inheritance. He desperately urged me to allocate a portion to Michelle. However, I remained steadfast in my decision. "As I told you before, I have no plans to use my father's inheritance. I've decided to save it for when we might truly need it," I insisted firmly. Sam muttered something and retreated to his room, avoiding me since then. We shared meals together, but conversation dwindled to a minimum. No matter how cheerful my attempts at conversation, a cold atmosphere lingered between us. 2 days later, I was browsing cakes in a pastry shop, hoping to lift Sam's spirits. It was then that I felt a familiar gaze and turned around. "Dear, is it you, Ashley?" stood my ex-boyfriend from middle school. Despite 2 decades apart, we recognized each other immediately, which brought a burst of laughter from me. We had lost touch after high school, and I had no idea what he'd been doing. Meeting him here, back in our hometown, was unexpected. After buying our cakes, we decided to catch up at a nearby cafe. "Ashley, you haven't changed a bit," he remarked with a smile. "Neither have you. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, I replied, feeling the exchange refreshing and out of the ordinary. We chatted and laughed for a while, reminiscing about old times. However, when the topic shifted to love stories, his expression suddenly darkened, leaving me unsure how to respond. "I recently broke up with my girlfriend, and all I do is regret it," he began. "Why did you break up?" I asked, curious to hear his side. "I couldn't provide her the emotional support she needed," he admitted. For a moment, I wondered if she was cheating, but what she said next resonated deeply with me. He went on to explain that his ex-girlfriend had a fragile constitution, unable to work long hours, and thus only held part-time jobs. Despite knowing this when they started dating, as he found success in the marketing industry, she struggled to keep pace. "I could provide a luxurious life," he told her, and reassured her that she shouldn't blame herself for not working as much. However, she never seemed to believe him, constantly in tears. Listening, I felt a pang of empathy for his ex-girlfriend. "You were just boasting about your achievements and putting pressure on her," I interjected. "She probably didn't want a lavish lifestyle. She likely felt lonely because you were too absorbed in your work." His busy schedule meant he only went home twice a week and didn't text her daily. Hearing this, I couldn't help but raise my voice. How did she tolerate that? If I were her, I would have ended things too. No matter how busy you are, neglect like that is unacceptable. You knew her limitations. Why did you care for her more? As the truth sunk in, I couldn't help but draw parallels to my own marriage, especially around our 3rd year together. I was struggling with infertility treatments and sank into a deep depression, both physically and mentally drained. Despite this, my husband, who claimed to be occupied with work, never once checked in to see if I was okay. After I finally expressed my pain, he apologized and made efforts to improve. The hurt from that time lingers painfully in my memory. Seeing how desperate I was, my ex-boyfriend seemed to realize his own mistakes. He confessed he wanted to reconcile with his ex but lacked the courage to act. Wanting to help him, I listened to his grievances about my husband, and we spent time together consoling each other. At least that's what I believed. However, a shocking revelation left me stunned. My ex revealed that his older brother's wife was extremely cold-hearted despite being a stay-at-home wife. She neglected household chores and wasted money on nights out, pushing him towards considering divorce. Shocked by this story, I sympathized deeply. That's awful. I can't believe he's putting up with her, I commiserated. Yeah, that's why he's secretly planning to let loose at an upcoming reunion, my ex explained. The word reunion struck a chord. Comparing details about his brother's situation and my own husband's behavior, a shocking truth emerged. His recent ex-girlfriend was none other than my husband's sister, Michelle. We were both left speechless by this bizarre coincidence. Sharing everything about our troubled marriages, my ex became visibly upset on my behalf. Your husband is lying. He's using his sister to gain access to your father's wealth, he concluded angrily. We decided to confront my husband the following day. Knowing his usual work hours, we tracked his movements. He left his office 10 minutes later than usual and headed towards an unfamiliar mountain lodge. There, we witnessed him being warmly greeted by a woman, clear evidence of his infidelity. Realizing how hard it would be to gather solid proof ourselves, we opted to hire a private investigator. Upon our return to the lodge, we discovered another unforgivable truth. My husband had purchased the lodge for $70,000 in cash, hiding this financial move from me. To add insult to injury, a woman with children was living there, seemingly to repay his debt. It became clear he was planning to exploit my ex-girlfriend, who is his own sister, in some sinister scheme. I'm glad you didn't give him the money, Ashley. If you had, it would undoubtedly have been spent on his mistress, my ex-boyfriend remarked solemnly. You're right. I never imagined he would hide such a large sum from me. It feels like he's mocking me, I replied bitterly. Maybe we should confront him together, I suggested. My ex-boyfriend agreed, and together we reached out to his ex-girlfriend. Tearfully, she asked why he had contacted her, but when we revealed what we had discovered, she immediately wanted to meet me. The next day, the three of us shared our first meal together at a family restaurant, our eyes bright with relief at our long-awaited reunion. I'm sorry I haven't seen you since the wedding. My brother told me not to meet you because you hate me, Michelle said, her voice filled with remorse. Wait a minute. I never said I hated you. I even suggested to Sam that we should go on a trip together with you, I responded, the realization dawning that Sam had been the one to create a rift between Michelle and me. From the beginning of our marriage, Sam had been deceiving me, and I blamed myself for trusting him. Tears of regret flowed uncontrollably. Seeing me in such distress must have stirred deep emotions in both of them. In the quiet moments that followed, the three of us shared tears together. Speaking on behalf of my ex-boyfriend, I conveyed his feelings to his ex-girlfriend. She admitted her own flaws, saying, I had a strange kind of pride. I ended up envying my boyfriend's success at work, and as a result, I couldn't be honest and rely on him. It was a sobering realization that a small misunderstanding or assumption between a man and a woman could lead to significant tragedy. From that moment on, they vowed to communicate with greater understanding and consideration for each other. Eventually, they reconciled and got back together. I'm relieved, I finally admitted, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders. I had been pondering what to do if things didn't work out, but I'm relieved that everything turned out fine in the end. Despite the trouble my brother has caused, thank you for helping me. Now it's our turn to support you, my ex-boyfriend said sincerely. 3 days later, the moment arrived to take action. While my husband cheerfully headed off to his reunion, I began packing my belongings. The reunion was set at an inn about 2 hours away by car, with an overnight stay planned until the next evening. Thanks to the assistance of my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend, I had extra time to carefully sort through and discard the photos that once held cherished memories with my husband. It struck me how love can change. It felt oddly refreshing to let go despite the sentimental value attached to those pictures. In our previous discussions, we decided to sell our house first. It was heartbreaking to part with this place that held so many memories of my father, but I knew he would understand. The following morning, I arranged for a moving company to transport our belongings to my husband's parents' house, accompanied by my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend. We went to confront my husband and his parents with the truth. Upon hearing a recount, my husband's parents were furious. We didn't raise a son who deceives his sister and wife like this, they exclaimed, pledging to sever ties with him while embracing me as their true daughter. That day, we spent a pleasant time together at their house. The next day, I received a call from my husband, announcing the end of the reunion and his return. As expected, his voice turned confrontational the moment I put him on speakerphone. You're not going to give me the house even though I'm trying to take care of my sister, he demanded. No, I'm not, I replied firmly. Then get out of the house by the end of today, he retorted. In the past, I might have been reduced to tears by such words, but this time, I remained composed. I now had strong allies in my ex-boyfriend and my husband's family. Realizing his attempts to regain control were futile, my husband shifted tactics, trying to appease me with pleasantries. However, it was too late for reconciliation. Hours later, he called again, panicked and breathless. Where did you go? There's only my stuff left. What's happening? Suddenly, his sister's voice pierced through the phone, accusing him. It's disgusting how you're trying to turn Ashley's house into a love nest with your mistress. Confusion gripped my husband, and the room fell silent for a moment. After a brief pause, he erupted in a voice tinged with disbelief. Michelle, is that you? Why are you with Ashley? What's going on? I have nothing to say to a brother who betrays his wife without hesitation. Anyway, I'm coming home now, Michelle replied icily, ending the call abruptly. An hour later, she returned with divorce papers signed by my husband Sam. That marked the end. Our family home would be sold in 3 days, and I would receive alimony from Sam. It was a chaotic turn of events, but I believed it was for the best. Since then, I have been staying at my ex-husband's family home, focusing on studying for the caregiving certification I had always wanted to pursue. Meanwhile, my ex-husband sold his log house and now lives quietly in a small apartment with the woman he had an affair with. I feel refreshed and content, knowing that if she's satisfied with him, they can have each other. I am confident that a better person than my ex-husband will enter my life. Keep going, Ashley, I remind myself daily, embracing the fulfilling life I now lead.